People say less is more. At Red Barn, we think less is better. It's what you won't find that sets our natural premium pet food apart. No byproducts, no corn or soy, no fillers. Just the natural ingredients your pets need to live the healthy life they deserve. Look at the label. We want you to. Red Barn Naturals Pet Food. Simply the best. Find it in your local pet specialty store. Visit redbarninc.com/coupon to save $1 off your first can.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Golden Truth Raw and Real. This is Linda Summers.
Hi, everyone. This is Sharon Andrea. Welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for all joining us today. And I just want to make a clarification because today's show is the Golden Truth Raw and Real, the Awakening Sacred Intimacy. And I had put in there Sacred Orgasm. So we changed it to intimacy because it really is about connection first, intimacy, and then that. So we're just going to kind of dive into talking about intimacy, talking about relationships, talking about consciousness, and we really want to really talk about conscious living. Right, Sharon? I mean, we really want to dive into that.
Yes. It's very important to understand what conscious living is all about. It's really like on a level of being aware, and it's about having a connection. So it's not about just penetration. This is about having a connection, which is also in the lines of intimacy. And that's important, and we want you to understand that and make sure there's a full level of understanding of that and what this means, how this also raises the consciousness of the planet as well.
Yeah, and I think what's important, too, is to let the listeners know that, the Golden Truth Raw, when we talk about sacred intimacy, what I feel what goes to a lot of people's mind is sex and, oh my gosh, and, there's this whole misconception, and really what we're trying to do is really bring truth to light of what we have been programmed from the beginning of time about sex, about intimacy, about connection, about relationships, about all of this, sensuality and all of this. And, I just think it's really important for people to know that it's much deeper. Like we talked about last week about making love to the world and what that really looks like. And you had a great experience with your grandson. So I think that would be a great thing to let people know when we talk about intimacy about that.
Yes, I had the pleasure of having my wonderful grandson with me over the weekend, and I always call him my little medicine. And, when I woke up and he's laying there in the bed just looking at me with his beautiful eyes with so much love, and it's like I could feel his soul saying, I love you, Grandma, for taking care of me. And that is a type of intimacy. It's like he's such a pure soul. He's a pure soul, and his essence is just total love, unconditional love. And so that was a type of intimacy for me because, you know why? I felt safe. I felt safe with him. I didn't feel like as if, he's just saying he loves me because I did something for him. It just came from his essence. It came from his soul. This is where we are all heading back to for those who are interested in being on that path is connecting to each other on that type of intimacy. And that means that we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and feeling safe with one another. And this is a part also is what's taking place on the planet with the divine masculine and feminine coming together and healing and feeling that type of intimacy where there's pure love coming from within our hearts and connecting from our hearts and souls.
Exactly, because we talk about balance, right? We're in this time of, where the masculine was very predominant in the beginning, and right, and then the divine feminine came in, and then now as you and I talked before the show, that there's a lot of movement, this divine feminine movement, and it can't be one, then if we're just getting back into the same thing. First it was the masculine, then it's going to be the feminine. What we're really talking about is in life, there is a balance in nature, in life, and as well in us as we talk about there's the yin and the yang. Men have the feminine aspect, women have the masculine aspect, and there has to be a balance within that.
Yes, absolutely. It's important for us to understand how we view each other as far as feminine and masculine, because usually in the past with the feminine is where she didn't feel safe because of sexual traumas, and it also applies to the masculine too. There's aspects of the masculine who didn't feel safe to become open and intimate with the feminine, except them feeling that they just take charge sexually and that's it, and also allowing himself to be nurtured and, feeling that love that can come from the feminine without feeling as if he's being too vulnerable, you know what I mean? And therefore both are opening up to one another. So all of this is what's important in order to understand the sacredness of the intimacy that we will all have together, and we all can start to feel safe again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and when you were talking about that, what came up for me was the 50 Shades of Grey is a perfect example of a boy who, his mom's friend, took him aside and, all these different acts. And so, that's a whole other, really it was where he became dominant.
I didn't see the movie, so.
Okay, well, I saw the movie, and I also read the book, the first part of the book, and that's just a great example for anybody listening out there. That's a great example of someone who was traumatized, because we think mainly women are the ones that are sexually traumatized, but what I was referring to with this movie is, like you said, men as well, and that they will act and become the ones in charge, because that's what he did in the movie or in the book, that he was the one that became in charge and control. So, and a word you mentioned here is really, I think, important too, is about feeling safe.
Yes.
We've had these sexual traumas and we've had things that have happened to us. It is hard to be able to be vulnerable enough to feel safe, to allow that intimacy, to allow that connection, to allow the relationship.
Yes, that is so true. I'm also going to even express an experience I had just a few days ago. It was extremely traumatizing for me. I actually had nightmares of being sexually assaulted, like a gang rape type of thing, and it was very painful for me. It still is. I was so scared, so nervous, and I didn't feel safe. I was like, I wanted my mother. I wanted her to be with me so badly in the physical world. And what helped me to get through it is I had to start to feel what I can do to start to feel safe, and that means I had to work with healing within my own wounds. And it's not just myself that I was feeling all of this, it was also the collective consciousness, because, being that I'm a twin flame, I'm also purging through things for what humanity has experienced, which is very traumatizing, and that's one of the major things that has happened to a lot of people on the planet, and it's not something that we're easily, I would say, comfortable to talk about. And so a part of being able to heal with that is being able to talk about it. When you can get to that place where you can talk about it because you feel like you can't, you feel stuck. And I was just crying and crying so much. I was just crying it out. And it's not like as if it was something that took place in this life, because I felt the whole experience like I was knocked in my head, and then it happened. And, I think about, and I know of someone who was sexually traumatized in a brutal way, and it's not a nice feeling. And so, I know that some of you say, well, I can't even think about intimacy or orgasm and all of these things when I've gone through any type of sexual trauma. And so this is how we can help one another and allowing ourselves to start being open to talking about it to someone and reaching out and being able to work through those blocks, because it's important to be able to work through those blocks in order to become intimate. There's a stepping stone.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I even make my comment, I just want to let anybody know that if you want to call in and you want to share, please really call in and share. If you have a question, let us answer that. And the number is 347-850-8423. If you're calling out of the country, it's 001-347-850-8423. And, when you were talking about your experience the other day, what came up for me, what I heard was about the inner child. There's a lot of, I know people that have been molested as well, and there's that. What happens is from my understanding, that, there's this inner child that lies within us, that resides within us, right? And that child, when this act is going on, whether it's a child or an adult, we actually leave. We disconnect from our bodies, and a fragment of us goes away, and we are completely numbed out. And so these people that I know, and this is what I agree so wholeheartedly what you're saying, is to really share this, because these people, we think, okay, it's been done, this trauma has happened, it's in the past, it's in the past, and we want to forget about it. But what we're saying on this show is that still resides in the wound, and it's still, you cannot have a true connected relationship, true intimacy with someone if we haven't shared, if we haven't healed.
That's right. And one of the things that's important from what I channeled in, because every experience that we have is something for us to help with ourselves and also to help others, And one of the things that's important is listening and connecting to one another to know if something is wrong, especially when we talk about the inner child. It's also not only inner child within us, but also the children who are also on the planet who are being sexually traumatized, which cannot allow them to get to a place of even being comfortable with intimacy when they get older. And then that spirals into another destructive and chaotic behavior that occurs on the planet, and then the cycle continues. And so it's important to also listen to our children and pay attention to if the child comes to you, because I spoke about that in my recordings this morning. When the child comes to you and say, I've been touched, I've been this, to listen and to be consciously aware of what is happening. And you see, that's a part of conscious living. It is.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I want to tell the listeners, like, really what we're really trying to do is to really bring awareness and provide the information so people to heal, so there can be this connection, this relationship, a true intimate relationship. And so let's talk. I mean, I really feel like I really want to stay with this whole where we're at, because I don't feel we can have intimacy until we really talk about this sexual trauma. And so what the question kind of comes up to me, and I've never really, the only way that I've talked with these people in situations like this is really helping them to identify and realize that at the time that this was happening as a child, you are a child. You don't know. You don't know, and you think that these people are the God. They're the ones that are, we look at them as role models, as our parents or as our friends or whatever's happening, right? So, I feel that, so I guess what I'm really saying is, how do we really heal? How do we look at these situations? We talk about it. We have the understanding that we were a child, that if there's no guilt on us, there's no blame for us. We didn't know any better, right? So to help them shift their perspective, that's where I was coming from. That, I don't want to say I haven't ever had this, because there was an incident in my own life where I thought, and this is where I think for myself, that I blocked it out. Like, according to me, that it never happened. Whether it really did, I couldn't tell you, unless I dove into hypnosis or something like that. But, I don't know if I really want to know, right? So, I mean, I have felt it hasn't traumatized me in any way, because I don't really know. But so I really want to talk about that. I think, don't you think, it's just to go that place of how can we heal these?
Well, I know one of the key things, is how we allow ourselves to be open to the listening aspect and paying attention and being conscious. I come back to that again, because I gave an example how when I was a young teenager, and I've had many bouts of stalkers and, people following me and stuff like that, and I told my mom, and my mom believed everything I said. Because why? Because she lived consciously. You see, and there's so many stories that I've heard, even a recent story of a young woman in another country. She was 18, and she told her mother over and over again that her own father was raping her repeatedly, and her mother and her sister did not believe her. And she decided to record it in order for someone to believe her. And this is what happens when people are not being conscious at all. And so this pain continues, and it's because in areas of society, and it doesn't matter, it's in all parts of the world, where everyone is just oblivious to things. Most people are just oblivious to things, and they're not being conscious. And if we really are connecting to the heart and the soul of that person, we'll be able to feel that it's true, regardless. And so because of things that have been passed on from generation to generation, the bloodlines, the history of what you're taught, look, don't say that. That's not good. That's not true, because we don't want to believe it. We don't want to face the truth. So a part of this is about awakening ourselves to the truth.
Yeah.
Awakening ourselves to what's happening here and facing the truth and facing ourselves. Sometimes 9 times out of 10, the trauma that's existed in most of our lives is because our own parents have gone through it and they don't want to face it. And so they just push it away. And then that's where the blocks continue, and that child or that young person cannot feel safe enough to talk to anyone about it, and then it continues. And so you see, that's also another type of intimacy, how you can allow yourself and your parents or your loved ones to be intimate enough to be able to discuss things openly, especially when it comes to sex, when it comes to intimacy, when it comes to connecting, because that's what true intimacy is all about, is connecting. When we're disconnected, then how are we to feel and know what is true? And how do we connect? We connect from the heart.
Well, I want to go back because what came up for me, and I feel that this is an understanding, and I'm not sure where you're at with this, but I know that from my own experience of just through life and of through growing, that what I realized was within my own parents. You know what what I'm saying is that if someone is being sexually molested by their father, let's say, I feel that if we can have the understanding of looking at how the father, what was his life like? Did he get raped? What was his father's like? Did he get raped? You know, and same with the women. So if we can have that understanding that we don't know what we don't know, and if they don't know how to love, if they don't know how to connect, if they don't know how to be intimate, then they're not going to be able to be that way with us. So not to say that it was okay, by no means. But if we can have the understanding of knowing about our parents. I mean, I didn't even know about my mom's life until just probably maybe 3-4 years ago when I inquired into how was it growing up for you. And what I realized, my mother had a very hard life. It was about survival for her. And I didn't know that. So it made me help to understand how she was with us and why she was with us, because she didn't know anything else, right? So I think people who abuse and people who do that, that's because they only know of one thing. They only know that because that was happening to them. It doesn't make it right by any means, right? So this is what we're saying, is to be in conscious living, conscious awareness, to be listening to, being in tune, right, to start having those conversations.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's very important to start having the conversations with your children. Start it from now. A lot of times people say, oh, no, I can't talk about it now. They're too young. No. You have to understand you're looking at a soul here, and there's so much taboos, and these taboos have been passed on from generation to generation, because for you to think that your children are not going to go and explore and to find out things, there's even in families, they don't even want to address masturbation. They don't want to address sexual activities. They don't want to address anything. And then, the child is going to explore. Because why? Because it's a natural thing. It's a natural thing for us to want to explore, for us to want to understand. And if we're not taught and for it to be understood, it becomes misunderstood. And then it becomes, that label, it's dirty, it's nasty. Oh, what is this here? No, stay away from that. Don't do that. And then there's a suppression that occurs. So whenever a person feels suppressed, then what happens? It doesn't feel natural for them, right? This is not something we're talking normal, because there's a difference between normal and natural. So something that's natural within us, because why? We are, by nature, natural law, we are sexual beings. We are sexual beings. And that is within us from our creation. There's a difference between saying from our creation than from our birth. From our creation, we were created through sexual energy. We are sexual energy. Sexual energy is what makes things happen. And so when I think about things from a grander scale, Linda, this is about how can we work through these wounds? How can we come back to who we were, to that original pure state, like my grandbaby. Right. All the babies of the world that are coming in right now to help this planet to heal on a grand scale, and how do we start? Where do we start? Start now from within ourselves. And that means that we're allowing ourselves to face our fears, and we are remembering who we are, because all this is within us. It's remembering who we are and work from that place of healing so we can start moving in that direction of feeling safe and becoming intimate with each other. And there's a difference with understanding. There's levels of intimacy. So I want everyone to know that. And as long as you allow yourself to understand, that'll make a difference.
Absolutely. And I feel that it begins with the parents. And we have children that are so young that have computers. We're talking 5 years old. We're talking 2 years old, right? So they're very accessible to the Internet. So it is really, I feel, the parents' responsibility to really pay attention, to see and know what their children are doing. That's going to be really important to begin there. And I also, because it reminded me when you were talking that of my own mother who, when I came into the whole puberty thing, my mom didn't talk to me at all. I had an older sister, thank goodness, that told me everything, right? My mom was like, she was kind of afraid. It was very hush-hush in my family. She was afraid to...
In most families, Linda.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So what we're saying is that, no, you want to start having these conversations, because I know when my children were in school, and we're talking probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that they were in school, girls and boys, we're talking in the bathroom, doing a lot of things that should not have been done, because, so there's a lot of things that are happening, and if we're not in tune and we don't shift that, it's not going to change. So because of parents, and I also want to say something too about religion. You talk about you mentioned something, and what popped into my head was about religion, because about the whole taboo and the masturbation and all of this. I think religion has really kind of put a thumb down on us, so to speak, to say that is that it's wrong and made it that way, that it wasn't appropriate, to know, like you said, our bodies are for exploring. That's what we're here. I mean, as a child, when they're babies, they're touching, they're feeling, they're like, what is this?
And it's a part of the five senses. And the thing about it is that things would be so much different in the world if there was an open, honest, truthful addressing of sexuality. So where everything is open to discussion, to talking about it, that is what's healthier. It's healthier. But when it's hidden and suppressed and demonized, or, all those words that use, killed for it, and, what comes with these rebelling and the things that happen to so much of our young people, it doesn't matter whether male or female, it's because it's an act of aggression. There's an anger, there's something. And what is that? That's usually because you're going against something that's natural. When you go against natural law, what happens? You create chaos and calamity and the wars. That's what has started all of this. And so this is about coming to the truth. That's what we're about, right? The truth here. This is the truth. Time to face the truth. And so if everybody's looking on the outside for the truth, start looking inside for this truth. You're hearing it. You're hearing it right now. And it's
I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so what I'm kind of hearing is the listeners are saying, so how can I go in and heal? How can I start to heal those wounds? Because as we mentioned earlier in the show, in order to be able to have a deep, intimate, profound, connected relationship, we have to heal that sacred, the wound within ourselves, right? To be able to be vulnerable enough to be open, to allow the unfoldment of the creation of the energy and all that to happen. So, so I think we talked about sharing, right? I'm sure there's groups that you can go to. So I feel there's probably I think to have the understanding of where were your parents coming from, to know how your parents were raised, what was their life like, right? And also, too, I think that if their life was not anything that was crazy, right, but yet this son or daughter turned out to be that way, maybe it's because the parents did not listen, did not pay attention, did not, love, or there could be a whole lot of things. So I think it's really to understand the people. So I'm sure you have some other things that you would add to that as well.
Oh, yes. There's many ways to how to deal with this trauma or any type of trauma. Firstly, there's support groups, and also this is about not being afraid to open yourself up to talking to someone, so you can identify and to help to understand. If when you get to a place of understanding what is happening through you, not to you, where we don't place ourselves as victims, okay? Because the victimization is what keeps you in that cycle of energy of pain and more pain and continuous pain. One way or the other, it's like having to face that pain. When you face that pain head on, you're able to set yourself free. And when you set yourself free, then you're able to move forward into your natural state of beingness, coming back to that pureness of your soul where you were not traumatized or you're not in a fear whatsoever. And this means that there's releasing that's taking place within you. Reach out to someone. It helps. Doing it alone may not necessarily help. I've had to do it myself. I reached out to 4 people to help me through what I was feeling, and it wasn't like as if it was physically happening to me. That was an emotional, deep wound that I was feeling. I can talk about it now without crying. That's how deep the pain was for me. And so for those who have physically had it, and there's some who's physically experienced it, or they may have a child or a loved one who's experienced it, and it's painful for them because it brings up wounds for them as well. You can also help to clear and work through your healing, meditating, going outside to nature, or, contact someone who can also help you with regression as well, that can help you, because sometimes you don't even realize that you have wounds that are within you from past lives that you're carrying with you, and you wonder why you're not able to be openly intimate with someone, and it could be based on that. There are people who are in relationships that they have sexual dysfunctions, issues that are going on with themselves, in so many disproportions. And so these are the things for you to think about. And, you can always email us if you would like to get more personal insight. If you want to get help on that, we'll be more than happy to help you with that. Because this is important for us to really work, and that's what we're here for. That's why we're doing this show, so that way we help one another to come back to that place of our self-realization and awareness, and that means that we're working to healing ourselves. It's a process. You don't just become healed. It's a process. And when you allow yourself to be open to that process and moving through it step by step, and that means you're not blaming yourself, you're not judging yourself, and you're allowing yourself to move towards, if there's any forgiveness involved, that helps you, because the forgiveness will be for you more than what has happened to you or through you.
Absolutely. So if you do have any questions and you really want some assistance, please email us at thegoldenTruthRaw, and then the letter N is in Nancy, Real, R-E-A-L. So it's thegoldenTruthRawandReal@gmail.com. So you can, we'll be more than happy to, assist you in whatever you need, if it's just in sharing, just in talking. So we're definitely here for you because, we're wanting to bring the truth out. We're wanting to create, a better world and really bring people into awareness so that we can have this world about love, and being in love and making love to the world and
that's right.
being in love. But we can't get there. It takes all of us to work together. It's not we're doing life by ourselves.
That's right. And and even if there's anyone that knows of someone that you suspect and you feel that they're experiencing trauma or molestation or even if it's domestic violence, no matter what the case may be, please do something. Even if you can't physically do anything, just reach out to help that person, because sometimes the person might feel stuck, like they can't move, they can't speak, because of how traumatic it is for them. You look at them as yourself. It's time for us to start looking at ourselves as each other, and that is what a connection is all about. The more we work towards connecting to one another is the more we continue to set ourselves free and create a better, happier world.
Absolutely. Well, and you know what comes up too is, and we've got about 50 seconds, about a minute left, but I feel that it's, we get so busy in our lives, right, that we don't have time to relate. We don't have time to connect. And that's where all the disconnection happens. That's where all of where we're, if we stay at that vibration, then we will not create something that's going to be of a higher vibration and enjoy. So, I feel it's really important for people to start living consciously, start really connecting with one another. Smile. It doesn't have to even be a conversation. It's just a smile, just a look, just opening the door. Simple little, like they say, simple, small kindness.
That's right. And smiling and that type of kindness is a form of intimacy. It is, because we all desire to connect and to feel connected to one another, especially physically. You see? Yeah. The hugging, the touching, the kissing, holding hands, it all counts. Even, sitting on someone's lap. That's a form of intimacy and feeling connected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I mean, just really, everybody out there that you've just been listening, that really email us at thegoldentruthdrawandreal@gmail.com if you have any questions. And again, today's topic was about the awakening sacred intimacy, and really we dove into a lot of, before we get into the intimacy, it has to be healing those sexual traumas. And so there's a lot of tips today that you can, listen to the show to really, hear what we had to say, and then also email us.
Yes.
Yeah, so
wonderful.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today, and we love having you tune in. Yeah, absolutely. It was just a wealth of information, and it's a beginning of being able to start this connection, this relationship, and this intimacy, and really in having true love relationships.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we thank you all for joining us today, and the ones who will be joining us via YouTube, we thank you so much. Don't forget
thank you very much.
follow.
No, I'm saying we thank you very much. Lots of peace, blessings, and healing to each and every one of you who are out there who are listening.
Yeah, and again, just, share and open up, and, email us, and, we're here for you, for everyone. We're here for, whether it's sexual trauma, whether you want to just have a conversation, there's something going on that you want to, ask us about, please just definitely call in. We're here for you. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So follow, subscribe, comment, and like us, and you can find us on YouTube with The Golden Truth Raw and Real. You can find us on Facebook, The Golden Truth Raw and Real. And again, our email address is thegoldentruthdrawandreal@gmail.com. So we love you, we thank you, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Have a great night.
All right. Love you guys. Bye.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Earlier this week, Claire Tippins shared a princess nickname generator, 3 pictures of her dog wearing a tutu, and 2 online quizzes, including, what candy is your dream castle made of? Claire, your sharing has tipped the sugar scale and turned into oversharing. But have no fear, princess. Geico has something worth sharing with your internet kingdom, like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance just by visiting geico.com. No magic wand required. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.